Hi there, this is Dhruv Dalvi. Today we'll look at cutting different materials. So we have here thin materials like butter paper, we got printing paper, we have foam sheets, OHP sheets, we have some cartridge sheets, card paper, corrugated board, mount board, and wooden laminate. So the first thing you'll need is a cutting mat, a steel ruler, and a blade. So for the first paper, I'll take the printing paper. So the first thing you'll do is hold down the steel ruler and lightly score over the line that you want to cut. This sets up a groove for the blade to fit in, after which you can apply constant pressure with consistent strokes until you cut the paper. So you have to pretty much follow the same procedure for even the thicker paper. So this one is the cartridge paper. Again, just go with consistent strokes until the paper is cut. Now let's move on to some thicker ones. So this is a card paper, or you can say thin cardboard that you will get in packaging. So even for this one, lightly score over and consistent strokes. You can cut the cardboard. Okay, so one thing you have to note is that I'm holding down the steel ruler more firmly than I am putting pressure with my blade. If I put too much pressure on the blade and then keep the steel ruler very light, there's a chance that the blade might deflect like this and the cut will not be even. Okay, so now let's look at cutting mount board. So mount board is one of the thickest cardboards you'll get. This is about 1.5 mm thick, and to cut this you have to follow the same procedure. Just bear in mind that you do not leave the material half cut and then start all over again just because it's very thick. You have to keep on going layer by layer until the whole material is cut through and through. You can see the amount of strokes that I gave just to cut this, but you can see how clean the cut is right now. There is no signs that it was cut very raggedly or in a hurry. So let's move on to ice cream sticks. So ice cream sticks, as you can see, is made of wood, and wood consists of grains. In this case it is running in this direction. If I cut along this grain, it is called as ripping, and if I cut perpendicular to it, it is called as cross grain cut. So for cross grain cut, you have to keep the scale perpendicular to the grain and lightly score. Scoring is just again lightly marking the surface that you are about to cut. After you score over the surface, you trace the line back to the other side, to the back side. Join the two cut marks that you made and repeat the same procedure again. After that, you can just snap it. You can see it's a clean cut, and even if you have some tear out at the end, you can just clean it with a scissor. I can pretty much see that this is a very clean cut, and this is the way you cut cross grain. If you just try and snap it without marking the line like that, you're gonna get some break, and this is not gonna work at all. As far as ripping is concerned, this is a little bit trickier because you are fighting against the grain. Even though I say we are going along the grain is not exactly straight, so your blade will tend to swivel along the grain rather than the scale. So you have to be very careful while doing it. You have to lightly mark over it several times before you can start applying pressure, and you have to go through and through with this. You cannot try and snap the two pieces apart. You can, okay, you can see how the ripping is done. This is a pretty clean cut. If there is some tear out, you can just sand it, or you might even use some scissors again. Okay. Okay, so now let's look at foam sheets. So foam sheets are a sponge based material which require a much sharper blade than a card paper or even a mount board to cut it. So before we cut it, first let us understand the difference between cutting it with a scissor and with a blade. So you in a scissor you are cutting using the shear cutting technique. So two blades are coming together and trying to cut the material apart. In a blade or in a cutter, you are relying on the material stiffness so that the blade can fit, go in the groove and start to cut the material. In this case, you can see that the material is not very stiff, and that's the same with a tissue paper, an aluminum foil, and any cloth. So to cut these, the best option is a scissor. But if you want to still cut it with a blade like this foam sheet, you have to have a very sharp blade and you have to go very slowly, because if you go very fast, it's going to try and tear the material apart, and it's going to have like um, these kind of movements which are going to give a very uneven cut. Okay, so now let's move on to wooden laminates. So you might have these lying around. These are like a chip based material, so these are very hard, at the same time quite thin. This is just a 1 mm thick plate. So to cut these, you require a method called as scoring and then snapping it, just like the cross grain cut. So you mark the surface, be patient, go over the lines again and again, because the wooden laminate might snap in a way that you may not want if the cuts are not deep enough. Again, trace over to the other end. Okay. After you're done with that, just snap it apart. Okay, so that is how you cut different kinds of material.